This is VSiN at the Track, the road to Kentucky Derby. Now here's your hosts, Patrick Meagher and Aaron Halterman.
Okay, you love to see it. The group chat at VSiN Live on YouTube is already bumping as we welcome you in. VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby. I'm Patrick Meagher alongside Aaron Halterman. I'll be sitting in for Mike Somich today. Somich will be back, but let me just say this. This is your home for everything you need to know for May 3rd. Kentucky Derby right around the corner. Of course, we got the prep races right now. And if you can't get wrapped up, and this is for you, Halterman, if you can't get wrapped up into this Derby trail, I've got nothing for you. The 151st running of the Kentucky Derby is going to be explosive. This is about, now I'm obsessed with the sport. You're an expert. Somich is an expert. That's what makes Racing Dudes and the collision with VSiN so exciting for us. As with ExpressBet and the whole crew, we're going to be able to stream these races live. But as a super fan of horse racing, this is as excited as I've been in a long time.
You're the hype man. I love it, dude. What an intro, and what a week for you to be on. I know, we don't have Mike Somich this week, but this is a great week for Patrick to be on because it is so exciting, and we've already got people saying how excited they are for the weekend. I am as well. The Arkansas Derby, where Bob Baffert tries to take a big step towards back to the Kentucky Derby. Of course, he hasn't been in there in 3 years. He's going to be back this weekend with a horse named Cornucopian we'll talk about. You've got Sovereignty at Gulfstream Park in the Florida Derby. A lot to be excited about, Patrick. A huge show for us here, so I can't wait to get going.
And Sovereignty on my top 5 list, which we'll get into. We have Aaron's top 5 right now as far as Kentucky Derby contenders, my top 5, and Somich from Costa Rica. My man has sent his top 5 in as well. Remember, VSiN at the Track streams live on Fridays at 2:15 Eastern and on the VSiN YouTube channel, which is, of course, right now where you can find us in the chat, and then replays on VSiN proper Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern. As I mentioned, you can post your comments and questions in the live YouTube chat at VSiN Live, and we'll do our best throughout the program to respond. Shout to Matt Deutsch, shout to Isaiah Wrinkle and the crew back in Vegas. Let's get to it. Let's start with the race recaps because we had some good ones last weekend, and we'll start with the Louisiana Derby. The Tiz the Law Colt, Tiztastic, the winner, earns a bid to the Kentucky Derby. Overall, Louisiana Derby, what's your take here, Aaron?
Yeah, let's just shout out Tiz the Law, number one. That's that. What a horse he was. But I'm afraid Tiztastic is not quite like Tiz the Law, although I do think he is an improving colt. Of course, trained by Steve Asmussen, who has more wins than anybody in the history of this game. He is the all-time leading trainer as far as win goes in horse racing. But Tiztastic is a horse that is getting better. I think the best thing you could say about him, he ran his best race when going longer. The Louisiana Derby was 1 mile and 3/16. That's the longest Kentucky Derby prep race out there. That's also the same distance as the Preakness. Now, the Derby obviously is 1.25 miles, so a little bit longer there. But you have to give Tiztastic credit. He got better in this race. He made improvements. He ran strong down the stretch, and he galloped away from them pretty good, a little over 2 lengths. Now, the flip side of it is, from an analytical standpoint, this is still a horse that didn't get a very high speed figure, kind of in the middle of the pack right now. So we still need more improvement from him in the Kentucky Derby. But if he gets a fast pace in the Kentucky Derby like he did in the Louisiana Derby, I do think he can be a factor. He might be a horse that could get 3rd or 4th. I don't know about a winner, but I do think this horse is trending in the right direction. I'm probably, pending what happens in the next 2 weeks, thinking this horse might be used for a bottom of a trifecta or a superfecta in 3rd or 4th.
Nah, toss the horse. And by the way, you and Somich are Steve Asmussen's stans because he is the all-time winningest trainer. He's got the flow. We'll talk about flow with the Silver Fox and Baffert being back here in just a bit on VSiN at the Track. Asmussen, as far as I'm concerned, has never won a Kentucky Derby.
That's right. Yes, he hasn't, and it would be such a big, big deal for him to get it, especially after the heartbreak of Rich Strike. Patrick, you and I were standing right there on the rail when Rich Strike, at a 80-1 odds, passed Steve Asmussen's Epicenter. Epicenter ended up being the 3-year-old of the year that year. He was the best 3-year-old in trading that year. But Rich Strike on that day was able to beat Epicenter. That's the biggest heartbreak for Asmussen yet. He's still without it. It's the only race he hasn't been able to conquer that's a major race in the United States. So can he get it with Tiztastic again? Probably not, but I do think this horse is at least getting better at the right time.
You know what? You just reminded me. On the chat right now at VSiN Live, I want your best memories of being at the Kentucky Derby, because if you've never been to Churchill Downs, for me, it was almost, I would say, a religious experience. And my first time was going when we were sitting right there on the rail. And when Rich Strike, now all of you remember, Rich Strike crossed the finish line first. Everybody turned to everybody there at the rail, even trainers, people in the know, and said, "Who is that horse? What is this horse? What just happened?" It turned everything upside down.
It was insane. I'll never forget. I'll never forget the look on your face, because you were just like, if you guys don't know who it is, and I sure as heck don't know who it is. We thought it was the 2 horse. Do you remember this? Because the horse was number 21. He was not in the gate until a scratch happened and he got in. And we were like, the number 2 horse, I'll never forget, his name was Happy Jack. And I was like, well, that's insane that Happy Jack just won this race. And then he kind of gets by us. We were a little past the wire. He kind of gets by us, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Is as insane as Happy Jack would have been, that's Rich Strike, the 21 horse. That horse is 80-1. What just happened? I'll never forget the looks on all of our faces. Somich was with us too. Jared was with us, and we were all just like, what happened here? What is this, you know?
Yeah, I was 20 beers deep, but I can still say that I was gobsmacked when we found out it was 80-1 there on Rich Strike. That's what makes the Kentucky Derby so special. So tis-tastic, a great breakdown from Halterman there. Let's transition to the Jeff Ruby Stakes from last weekend, a grade 3 at Turfway. Now, this does have some history. Remember, Animal Kingdom 2011 won the Kentucky Derby. So this is a prep race that has provided talent in the past. Final Gambit, the winner there, pulled away a 3.5 length win.
I like Final Gambit as a horse that's getting better. I like him as a horse to maybe look for in the summer. I don't really like him for the Kentucky Derby, though. I think it's a little bit too much too soon for him. But you're right. This race has kind of been a little bit underrated the last 3 or 4 years even. You mentioned Animal Kingdom, and that is a major standout. But Rich Strike did prep in this race. He didn't win the race, oddly enough. He didn't even, I think he was 3rd or 4th. I can't remember in this race, but he was like a non-factor. He did go on to win the Kentucky Derby, is obviously after that. A horse named Two Phils won this race, ran 2nd in the Kentucky Derby in his next start. And then Seize the Gray. He hit the board in this race last year, finishing 3rd. He went on to win the Pat Day Mile and then the Preakness. So it's odd how it's kind of, if it isn't for the Derby, it's other races as well that it's kind of produced. So, but again, Final Gambit to me, he's on the outside looking in as far as somebody I'm interested in betting. But I will say, and I'll pause and say this, he's getting better. He can run on the synthetic surface. So he's got options now. Maybe you could try the turf with him, things like that again. So he's got a little bit of upside. I just don't know that the Kentucky Derby is where you're going to want to see him run.
Yeah, and Final Gambit, Aaron, trained by Brad Cox, who is one of the superstars amongst trainers here in 2025 in horse racing. I'm looking at the rest. Win, Play, Show in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Flying Mohawk and Maximum Promise. Maximum Promise trained by Kenny McPeak, who had a great run last year. Anything from those 2 horses?
Not really. You know, Maximum Promise is a horse I've unfortunately had to break up with, Patrick. I bet too much money on the horse, and he hasn't ran very well. So don't have a lot of interest in him. He kind of did what he does every time, run up, hit the board. Just not a lot of interest past the winners of either one of these races last week. They didn't produce quite what we wanted. They weren't bad, but they weren't like a superstar producing race, at least as far as their next start goes on the first Saturday in May.
And they punched their ticket, of course, Final Gambit, Jeff Ruby, and we talked about Tiz-tastic and the Louisiana Derby, so they get 100 points, so they do punch their tickets to the Kentucky Derby. That's a great point to start, and then we'll come back and we'll get to our top 5 as far as Kentucky Derby contenders. We'll look ahead to the Louisiana Derby, to the Arkansas Derby, which I think you're going to be live in person, and of course the Florida Derby coming up in a little bit here on VSiN at the Tracks. But what are you looking for? Tell bettors what to look for in these prep races for horses as they start to build towards the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And I think the big thing you want to look at is how a horse is finishing that last 16th of a mile. Or if you're not familiar with where the poles are on a racetrack, the last half of the stretch. So when they get midway down the stretch, watch how they finish from that point onto the wire, because they're stretching out in distance further than they've ever been in that last Kentucky Derby prep race. Usually you're going from 1 1/16 to 1 1/8 or a mile to 1 1/8. And that will make a huge difference when a horse stretches out to that distance of 1 1/8, or with the Louisiana Derby, the 1 3/16. It makes a big difference. So you want to look for horses that are finishing strong, heading for home, heading for that wire. That's the big thing to look at, because the big question mark that we all have going to the Kentucky Derby is, can the horse that I like run 1.25 miles? It's the longest he's ever ran, or she has ever ran in their lives. So that's the thing you want to look at when you're looking at these prep races. How are they running that last 16th or that last half of the stretch? Do they have energy, and do we think they can go longer when they have to do it again, on Kentucky Derby Day?
It's a great answer. Shoddy in the chat, excited for this weekend, as am I, as is Aaron. He's going to be at the Arkansas Derby, Florida Derby as well coming up. Shoddy, better boss, giddy up indeed, as we're just getting started. VSiN at the track. Aaron Halterman, I'm Patrick Maher. Mike Somich did send his top 5 in, so maybe we can clown a little bit. Again, if you're at YouTube at VSiN Live, give us this thumbs up, give us a subscription. We want to get this out to as many horse bettors and horse racing fans as possible. When we return, we've got our top 5. My top 5 is obviously the best top 5, and Somich will put him 3rd, so win, play, show, and then we'll put Aaron 2. But an exciting time of the year. Again, this is going to be an explosive Kentucky Derby. It's 151. It is pure Americana, people, and this year a field that could be an all-timer. We continue. VSiN at the track right here. Road to the Kentucky Derby. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. All right, we are open to the YouTube chat if you're hanging out. Thank you for hanging out. I agree, Shoddy. Excited for the weekend. And Halterman, we'll talk about this when we come back, but Halterman, you're headed down to the Arkansas Derby.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. That is where I cut my teeth in racing. That's what started the whole thing. Without the Arkansas Derby and a horse named Curlin, I know I've told you 1,000 times, Patrick, there wouldn't be a Racing Dudes, and that, you probably wouldn't know who I even was, because that's where I caught the bug. So going down, if you're going to be there, come say hi. We'll hang out. It's always fun to meet new people and stuff. So yeah, it's going to be fun, and we'll talk about it later, but we're going to get a very interesting race on Saturday down in Arkansas.
Okay, Kevin B wants to ask, has this man ever fallen through a garage ceiling and injured himself? Kevin B, who the hell are you,
give
and
Kevin
what
B
are you
the
talking
link,
about?
Patrick. Yes is the answer to that.
Yeah, and maybe some drinking involved, Kevin B.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll tell that story on air. I don't know if today's the day or not. We got a full show, Patrick. We shouldn't get to that.
Live read? Do I have a live read? What do you need from me as far as a live read? Let's see. I do. Do I have I'm sorry. Let me just is it on the topic bars? No. Isaiah, where would I find the live read? Oh, I have it. First bet.
You're tuned in to VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It is VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby, and we should say shout out to Steve Cohen, who's a huge Ponies fan, and Bill A.D. for making this happen, because this is about as exciting as it gets, because horse racing can be very secular and they don't generally allow new people into the sport. So what we've done here, Aaron and Mike Somich get a ton of credit as well with the live streaming and ExpressBet's help. This is very exciting as we get closer and closer to the Kentucky Derby.
It's freaking awesome. I mean, and we talked about it a little bit last week, Patrick, that this crop of horses right now, they seem to be further along than last year. Last year's crop was really good in the summer and in the fall, but when it was Derby season, it was just kind of, they had question marks. But right now, when you look at this crop, they look further advanced, and they look like we're going to have a more exciting Triple Crown. Now, what does that mean for the summer? I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. Sometimes they peak a little too early, but as of right now, we've got exciting horses to talk about for the first time in a couple of years, where we have a bunch of exciting horses to talk about.
VSiN at the Track streams live on Fridays, which is right now, of course, 2:15 on the East Coast, 11:15 my time, West Coast, on VSiN's YouTube channel. That's at VSiN Live. Subscribe, thumbs up, and then replays Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern on VSiN proper, which is exciting as well. You can post your comments right now live in the chat at VSiN Live. We'll answer what we can. Let's get to our top 5 horses, and we're going to start with Aaron Halterman and his handsome face. We'll start at the bottom there. Now, again, this list is subject to change as, of course, the prep races come up this weekend and beyond. But let's go ahead and throw Aaron's top 5 Kentucky Derby horses up right now, and we'll start with Cole Battle at 5.
Yeah, Cole Battle at number 5, and this is a horse that just wins races. I mean, he's won 3 Kentucky Derby prep races. That's tied with Citizen Bull for the most that has been won by a horse so far. And look, I think with Cole Battle, the thing you look at, he's a great story. He's owned by a very small outfit, very small trainer as far as he doesn't have a lot of horses, a jockey that is not a national name, but you just got to win races sometimes, right? And that's what Cole Battle can do. And like I said, he's going to run this weekend. We'll talk about and preview him more. But I love the consistency from Cole Battle.
Okay, number 4, Cornucopian on your list here, Aaron.
This is the wild card of the whole thing. He has just one race under his belt. It was a 6 furlong. That's 3/4 of a mile if you don't know furlongs, but that is a 6 furlong race, a maiden special weight debut race at Oaklawn Park. Now, why do I have him at number 4 off one race? He ran the fastest 6 furlong time for a 3-year-old maiden special weight in the history of Oaklawn Park, Patrick.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's fast.
No, it is fast, and it's 6 furlongs, so a bit of a sprint. But I've got Cornucopian. I'll get to it on my list as well. Is this a horse you can see stretching out?
It's a 50-50 proposition. The horses buy into Mischief, which is a horse that he's not really known for going all that long. It's more of a mile and 16th type of sire. He can go a little bit longer usually with some of his prodigy, but that's usually that middle distance is what works for him. So it's 50-50. But here's what I'll say. Bob Baffert entered him in the Arkansas Derby. Bob Baffert doesn't just enter horses and say, we'll just see what happens. Like, he's very, good about, hey, if I'm entering him, I think he can win. So that makes me think that he can go the distance because his trainer thinks he can do it.
Sovereignty is number 3 on your Kentucky Derby horses. Why?
Yeah, he certainly is one we don't have to worry about the distance. The longer, the better for this horse. He's bred to run all day. He ran in a race last time out called the Fountain of Youth Stakes, and here was the deal. It looked to me like he was up against it. He was going a shorter distance. He was coming off a layoff. I thought he would lose that race. He went ahead and won it, and he won it very impressively with a huge turn of foot. So Sovereignty at number 3 for me. He's going to run in the Florida Derby. We'll talk about him more in a second. He should be better this week than he was the last time he ran, so he's got a huge upside as we stretch out in distance.
Okay, Aaron, Citizen Bull is 2 on your list.
Yeah, and then Citizen Bull is just a horse that he is the 2-year-old champion. He came back. He has one race this year. It was a victory. There's just no reason to kind of knock Citizen Bull down yet until he gets beat. He's going to run next weekend. We'll see what happens. But as of right now, he is kind of the de facto, leader in the clubhouse, so to speak, for a golf reference of you got to go try to beat him. I do have one horse that I think will eventually come and catch him and beat him. But as of right now, you still got to rank him highly.
Well, I think that one horse is Journalism, who came and beat Barnes from behind. Journalism is number 1 on your list.
Yeah, and he was so impressive, Patrick, that I had to put him at number 1. As a 2-year-old, he won the Los Alamitos for charity, and that was super impressive, but he didn't beat a whole lot. But you just mentioned it. He beat a horse named Barnes last time out, and it looks like Barnes was going to just kind of run away from this race. He was galloping clear of everybody else. Then here comes Journalism. He's about 5 or 6 lengths behind, and in a blink of an eye, they're even with each other, and another blink, Journalism's left him in the dust. It was one of the more impressive prep. Well, it was the most impressive prep race that I've seen this season, without any doubt. We got to see him do it again. He's going to run next weekend in the Santa Anita Derby. We'll see what he can do. But as of right now, if he can kind of build off that race and kind of keep that type of form, I think he's going to be awfully tough. So he's number 1 for me.
All right, there you go. Aaron Halterman with his top 5 Kentucky Derby horses. I'm going to give you my top 5. Now, I'm not the expert like you and Somich, so I'm going to give them quickly, and then you can clown me all you want, okay? I'm going to start at number 5, Cornucopian, who you had on your list. It's Baffert. Baffert is going to be a theme here, people. Lightly raced, but Baffert has done this with Justify, done this with Bodemeister. Just 6 furlongs. Can he stretch out? I got him 5. Citizen Bull. Has he faced adversity? 5 starts, 4 wins. Santa Anita Derby, we shall see. That's Baffert. But has he beaten anybody? That's Citizen Bull. Barnes, I have in here just because of the connection to his assistant trainer. It's a little bit of a sentimental pick for me. A 105 in the Bear, where he did get passed by Journalism, so some very good speed. I threw Barnes 3. Sovereignty, Bill Mott, Hall of Famer. We've interviewed him many times. I know your boys with Bill Mott. Bill Mott's one of the gentlemen of the sport and one of the greatest trainers of all time. First in the Fountain of Youth, Sovereignty in the last time out. Were the figures great? Not really. So that's why I've got Journalism, number 1. This horse could be a freaking monster. The way down the stretch, Journalism passed Barnes like he was standing still, was he stormed by the horse. And that horse, Barnes, is exquisitely bred. Michael McCarthy, a great trainer. We shall see. But right now, Journalism with a bullet, number 1. Go ahead, clown my list, Halterman.
I can't clown it much. I think Barnes is a tad overrated just because I think he's his workouts haven't been quite as good since getting beat by Journalism. Patrick, I think you made a really good point about Journalism that I didn't when it comes to Barnes. Barnes looked home free. And like, when do you see a Bob Baffert horse that looks like a beast turning for home get run down by another horse? That was the thing that really impressed me. When they turned for home, my kind of thought process was Journalism's going to run a good second, and that's a really good starting off point. And then, like you said, he showed another, like a beast mode, right? Where it's like, no, I'm not running second to anybody. I'm going to catch this horse. I don't care who it is. And you mentioned it again. Barnes, while I think Barnes is a really good horse, just kind of the rumors I've heard about Barnes is he might not be working quite as well. He might be a little discouraged. That happens to horses when they get beat after they run what they feel like is their top effort and they get beat. They kind of regress a bit. It takes a while. That could be what's going on with him. But no clowning for me. I think you've got a pretty solid list.
Look, Aaron Halterman and Mike Somich are the experts here, VSiN at the Track. I'm just a fan. When you were talking about Journalism down the stretch, I got excited. Like when a horse makes a run, Arrowgate and Justify, when they make that run, your boy gets the tingle down there, and we got the chat bumping. But first, let me tell you, betting on sports, why not try the races? First Bet, the best partner here at VSiN. First Bet lets you wager on hundreds of horse races every single day from top tracks around the United States, around the world. Sign up at firstbet.com. That's firstbet.com. That's number 1, stbet.com. Use the promo code VSiN200 to claim 20% rebate for your first 60 days, up to $200. Now, it's what I use. It's what Aaron uses. It's what we prefer at VSiN. It's number 1, stbet.com. All right, so we do have Somich's list for VSiN at the Tracks. We can throw it up on the way to break, and I just want people in the chat and on VSiN proper to marinate on the list. Now, here's the thing. Somich is a pain in the ass. If we're completely being honest, he's a know-it-all. He is, along with Aaron and Jared at Racing Dudes, he is one of the most respected horse handicappers in the United States. That goes without question. And you know how I know that? Because he tells me. So where did I lie, Halterman? Where did I lie?
I was going to jump in and say that exact thing. I don't see the lie, Patrick. I think you're spot on with this one.
but he does have an impressive top 5. We'll do this. When we come back, we'll run it quickly, look ahead to this weekend's races, which are ridiculously exciting, including the Arkansas Derby, where Halterman will be. He does have a horse on his list just as a tease that I have in mind that Halterman does not have in his. So we'll get to that in just a bit. Also, the chat right now, the chat's going crazy. Smitty, yeehaw. Yeehaw indeed, Smitty. Better Boss, where's the love for Flying Mohawk? We can talk about that horse coming back. Let's see. Kevin B. Patrick is my new favorite because of Barnes. I love Barnes. Robert Moreno. Cornucopian is the Halterman of the bedroom. Fast to start and quick, early to finish. We're back. VSiN at the tracks. Yeah, Kevin B. Cornucopian, this is YouTube at VSiN Live. Shout to all of you that are hanging. Cornucopian is the Halterman of the bedroom. Fast to start and quick early finish over before you know it even started. Do you have a retort?
Like I said, I knew I shouldn't have sent this to him. He said he canceled all his meetings to watch, so we thank him for being here, but I knew I shouldn't have done it, Patrick. Listen, Kevin B is a good guy. I'm gonna take the high road. I'm gonna stay classy and just say he's a good guy.
Well, here's what I will say. Sport Freak 2414 says the energy is electric. Thank you, Sport Freak. Here's what Aaron knows. I don't get paid extra to do. I do this because I'm obsessed with hearing what Aaron and Mike have to say about horse racing. Because in life, I only have 2 things I care about: my dog Jeezy and horse racing.
It's true. If I need to feel good about myself, I just call Patrick and say, "Hey, what do you want to know about horse racing?" And then we talk. And he respects my opinions. That's about the only person. So, so anyway.
I do.
Yeah,
I
no.
do.
Listen, I think these kind of weekends, even for people like this is my job, my business, it gets you excited because you want to see great horses, no matter if you're just a fan or whatever. So yeah, with you.
So we'll throw up Somiches and we'll have a little fun with it, and then we'll get to the Arkansas Derby.
Sounds good to me.
You're tuned in to VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Thank you, Isaiah Wrinkle, Matt Deutsch producing. VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby. People, it's starting to feel good because, of course, May, spring, warm weather around the corner. And again, an explosive Kentucky Derby. It's 151, which is incredible. This is VSiN at the Track, which we stream live every Friday at 2:15 East and then 11:15 West. And then again, properly on VSiN Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern. You can post your comments in the VSiN chat at VSiN Live. I'll just say this. It's starting to get weird, which we like. So keep it going at VSiN Live in the chat. Aaron Halterman, I'm Patrick Maher. Mike Somich is going to be back. And speaking of Mike Somich, let's go ahead and throw up Mike's top 5 Kentucky Derby horses. We clowned him a little bit going to break, but all kidding aside, the 2 best handicappers I know are Aaron Halterman and Mike Somich. So you've come to the right place. He's got Citizen Bowl at 5. He does have Barnes on the list, as I did, and you don't, at 4. Cornucopian, all 3 of us, yes. Sovereignty, all 3 of us, yes. And journalism for Somich at 1. That's a sweep for journalism and Michael McCarthy, Aaron.
Well, it tells you how easy this Kentucky Derby is if Somich can even get a decent list up there, Patrick, because, I think everybody knew our lists were going to be fire, but then Somich comes with the pretty much same horses, and it's like, oh, so this is an easy Derby this year. I got it. That's okay. I get it. It's fine. We'll let him piggyback us.
The journalism question I have for you, Are we talking, and again, we went 37 years without a Triple Crown, and then we got American Pharoah, and then a few years later we got Justify, maybe with some controversy. When you watch that stretch run in the San Felipe from journalism, did you see, and as somebody that's engrossed in the sport, did you start to feel like we could have a monster here?
I think could is the key word because it's just the first race of the season for him. But it was a feeling of he might be on a little bit of a different level. But the key to that is you have to do it again in that second start, that last prep for the Kentucky Derby. So I'm just kind of waiting with nervous energy for next week because, okay, he beat Barnes, but next week we think he's going to race Citizen Bull in the Santa Anita Derby. So that's kind of the next level, right, of, okay, you beat Barnes, now can you beat the 2-year-old champion in Citizen Bull? So it could, yes. If he does that same thing again and he looks like that again, my mind is going to be thinking this is a horse that could do it. Maybe not win the Triple Crown, but maybe he's going for the Triple Crown. You know, that type of horse, that's who he could be. But we got to see it again, and we got to see it again next week.
Here's what I will say, and I'm calling my shot. Cornucopian, okay? Let me just say this. The speed figures, as you perfectly outlined, were freaking insane, historic. 6 furlongs, I understand. But if he stretches and has the stamina, I think we could be talking about Cornucopian being a special horse. Baffert, lightly raced, has done it before.
I mean, that's the key, right? If it was a different trainer, Patrick, I don't know about you, but I would just look at it and go,
right.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, maybe, but the track record is there. Now, people will point to Taba and say, oh, he didn't do it with Taba. Sometimes the horse just isn't good enough. He tried to. He got him to win the Santa Anita Derby in his second start. He got him as one of the favorites for the Kentucky Derby, and the horse didn't come through, but he's been able to do it before. You mentioned a horse that's kind of forgotten named Bodemeister. Now, Bodemeister had more starts than Cornucopian will have, but he was another one. He was lightly raced. He wasn't really a horse that had a lot of seasoning. He was an I'll have another away from winning 2 of the 3 legs of the Triple Crown. He finished second to I'll have another in both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, but there was nothing wrong with the way that horse performed. He just got beat by a better horse. So yeah, it goes back to the point with Cornucopian. It's Baffert, so I have faith. And again, I'll go back to this. If Baffert did not think this horse could run a 1 1/8 or thought this horse wasn't ready, he's not taking him all the way from California and shipping him to Arkansas. If you're backing Cornucopian, you are backing Bob Baffert's thought of, I think this is a really nice horse that can go win.
Yeah, and we'll get to Arkansas here in a second. What I would say is, remember, we've got the Santa Anita Derby coming up, and we're going to have it live here on Road to the Kentucky Derby and VSiN at the Track. What I would say is, remember, that's essentially what launched Justify, a monster performance in the Santa Anita Derby onto the Triple Crown, where that big-ass horse absolutely dominated. Let's get to it. A couple thoughts from the chat before we do. Sharp Bet Co. Call me crazy, Halterman, but I'm thinking Madaket Road at 25-1.
Oh man, I play in a fantasy horse racing league, and I do have Madaket Road on my team. I like this horse. Here's my problem with him. I don't really know where he really wants to race early on. They've had him a little too far back at times. And then last time out, he went way too fast too early. I'd love to see him break from the gate and sit about third in the Florida Derby. I've got him second for that race. So I don't have him beating Sovereignty, but I watched the last race and go, you know, if you can go that fast, he raced in the Rebel Stakes. He went so fast. Cole Battle was able to beat him. But it's like you watch that race, you go, okay, there's talent there. Can we get it consistently? Can we finally get a jockey to stay with him? This will be his 5th different jockey. I don't think you're crazy. I just can't quite get there that he's going to win the Florida Derby.
Okay, Shoddy, he demoralized Barnes in that one. Journalism very much did demoralize Barnes because Barnes ran a great speed figure and he was standing still. Journalism said deuces on the way by. So let's be fair about what happened there. Arkansas Derby coming up tomorrow. That on Saturday, the 29th, the 4th and final leg of Oaklawn's Rich Kentucky Derby Prep Series, which will be culminating. It's the Grade 1. You're going to be there. It's one of my favorite races, frankly, of the year.
Oh, me too. It is the race for me, an Oaklawn regular like myself. Yeah, I'm heading out the door as soon as this is over and heading to Oaklawn Park down in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's a great race. We've talked about Cornucopian a lot. He is kind of the centerpiece of will he or won't he. How I would approach this race when you handicap it, when you see Cornucopian, you got to make a decision. I'm going to be on the camp that, yes, he can get a mile and an eighth. He's going to stretch out well. If you believe that, he's probably, no, I'm not going to say probably. He is more talented than the other horses in this race. Now, if you look at him and you say, I don't think he's getting a mile and an eighth, I don't think he'll stretch out well, then you start to handicap the other horses. And that's what I would tell anybody to listen. I've been watching horses for a long time. I know talent when I see it. And what I've been telling people, I know Cornucopian is very, very talented. I do not know, and we will not know how far he actually wants to run until we see it. So that's the big question mark. If you don't think he can get it, Cole Battle is a very, very good alternative. And we've talked about him. He won 3 races in a row. He's won 2 races down at Oaklawn Park. He runs the exact same race every time, Patrick. He goes out there. He just kind of runs the same fractions every time, whether that puts him on the lead, whether that puts him in 5th. He doesn't care. And then when the jockey asks him to run, he just passes everybody. It's that simple. He's very, very reliable. So he's a very reliable second if you want to use him. Past him, you do kind of get like the Sandman vibes of like, he's a tap-it, Patrick.
I wanted to ask you about Sandman.
Yeah, he's wild.
Sorry to interrupt you, but this is a horse I want to ask you about because I'm so confused by this horse. It's short at 3-1 on the board. A lot of that has to do with the jockey and Ortiz. People do bet jockeys, of course. Sandman, 6-hole, thoughts?
Yeah, it's just he needs to put it together mentally. I think the talent is there. When I see Sandman, I see a little bit of another tap it Trice back a couple years ago where it's like, yes, I know the horse can run and I know the horse can pick off other horses. I just don't know that he knows that's what he's supposed to do. And with Sandman, it's like he breaks and he just looks around like, where in the hell am I? And he goes back to last. And then like half the race, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And then they kind of urge him and he'll pass a few horses. Mentally, we've got to put it together. If he does, I think he's dangerous, but I don't trust him. And that's why I lean more towards, if you're not playing Cornucopian, just take Cole Battle in this spot, and I think you'll be okay.
Would you be surprised if Cornucopian doesn't stretch out and win the Arkansas Derby?
I would not be surprised because no matter who the trainer is, who the jockey is, what the talent level is, that mile and an eighth is always just kind of a question mark until you see him do it. I wouldn't be shocked. I think he's going to get it. That being said, I do think he can run a mile and an eighth. I do think he's going to be tough in this spot. He's who I like to win the race. But the question is, would I be surprised? Not really. I think it really is a 50-50 proposition.
I think you can probably, most that care about horse racing know the name American Pharoah, and all you have to do is think back to 2015 Arkansas Derby, and there it is. And I'm pretty sure you were there.
I was standing on the track that day with my jaw just dropped, and I had seen some great performances in the Arkansas Derby. I'll never forget, I texted my dad that day, and I said, we saw a great performance, but we saw a Triple Crown winner because we saw Curlin, and we've seen Bodemeister, and we've seen these great horses. That horse is better than those horses. I'm 100% sure of it. It was one of the best races I've ever seen live.
And that was 37 years of a break between, of course, Triple Crown winners. We had a Smarty party down in Charleston, South Carolina for Smarty Jones people back in the day. Your boy was getting pumped for Smarty, and the Belmont almost got there. But, of course, 37 years later, we had, not from Smarty, but from the last Triple Crown winner, we had American Pharoah, then Justified. When we return, Florida Derby, that is a great prep heading into the Kentucky Derby. We'll get to it. VSiN at the track. VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Okay, YouTube. Awesome. Aaron, any suggestions for somebody going to Oaklawn?
Oh, so many suggestions, probably some that you shouldn't do. So I'll put those aside. But definitely hang out at the casino. It's like they've redone it. It's like a Vegas style casino now. So that's definitely a must after the races. There's a place to eat called the Blue Monkey. My whole family likes to go there. It's pretty good. There's a bar, or there's a couple bars. Jim's Razorback Pizza. That's a good place to go. Crosswalks right across the track. If you want to see jockeys, trainers, go to crosswalks after the races. Just walk right across the street. You'll see all of them. Well, not all of them, but the ones that drink, they're all there. So yeah, that's my the Big Chill after midnight. If you're out, go to the Big Chill. That's a great place as well.
Well, I am, for the YouTube chat, I'll just say this, as #family in our friendship, I am disappointed I did not get an invite to this year's Arkansas Derby.
You wouldn't have come. Don't lie to the people.
That's
Come
true.
on.
I would not
you
have
would
come,
not have
but
come.
I would have preferred the invite.
Well, okay, that's fair enough.
You're tuned in to VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
VSiN at the Track, so I did not get my invite to the Arkansas Derby with Aaron Halterman, of course. Mike Somich, he's away for a week. He'll be back. I'm Patrick Meagher as we welcome you back, VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby. I did not get an invite from my family there, Aaron Halterman, so I'm thinking maybe Steve Cohen, as at his crib down in Florida, will go to the Florida Derby, which we're going to preview coming up here in just a bit. We are, of course, VSiN at the Track, streaming live on Fridays, 2:15 Eastern time on our VSiN YouTube channel. That's at VSiN Live. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you spread the word. We appreciate that. Replays of the program Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern on VSiN proper, which is tremendous. Tremendous for the sport of horse racing. You'll love to see it. It's a sport that you've been trumpeting for many, many years at racingdudes.com. Now the collision doesn't get any better. Caracal, he said, a Tappet with mental issues? Wow, so rare. So we should talk about that. Tappet is probably the best sire of the last 20 years, but he definitely gives birth to children that are crazy.
Yeah, more than any other horse, right? And so listen, horses sometimes, especially thoroughbreds, they can be a little bit wild, but he consistently will give ones that's just like it's 50-50, or even maybe worse than that, that they're going to be a little bit crazy. But you're right, he's an unbelievable sire. They keep going to him because he's thrown some unbelievable horses. But yeah, you got to work on him. They usually get a little bit better with age. It usually takes a few races, even for the well-behaved ones. It'll take a few races before they kind of realize, okay, I know what I'm doing here. And that's what it is. When we say like a horse is wild or he's not well-behaved, it's more of just like they don't understand their job quite yet, right? They don't know why they're actually out there. And so that's what Sandman and mini Tappets, that's what they're trying to work through.
And also, we should explain to new viewers of VSiN at the Track, and if you're new to the sport of horse racing, first go to ExpressBet, sign up, and bet it. You'll have the time of your life. I started about 15 years ago, and I've been hooked ever since. But also understand this. These are 3-year-olds that are going to run in the Kentucky Derby. And if you kind of extrapolate 3-year-olds as horses to humans, that's essentially a senior in high school. So that's very important to understand. These are very precocious and not necessarily fully matured animals quite yet.
Yeah, and that's the big trick of the Kentucky Derby. Kind of what I said, about when we were talking about this year's crop versus last year. Last year's crop, Sierra Leone won the Breeders' Cup Classic. Fierceness won a race called the Travers, and the Jim Dandy was second in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Forever Young went over and won the Saudi Cup, which is the richest race in the world. They were all in the Kentucky Derby, but to your point, they were like seniors, juniors in high school that weren't developed. They developed once they graduated, basically, is what we're saying. Where this year, it feels like we've got that senior that's maybe LeBron James, right? Where we knew when he was a senior in high school, he was going to be a stud. So that's kind of the difference, and that's what you see year from year and how things can kind of change and why it is a little bit different every year. And it is based on, we're at that point where it's kind of make or break as far as their development goes.
Okay, Aaron Halterman, the prep races, the grade ones, it's getting serious. We talked about the Arkansas Derby. Now let's get to the Florida Derby down at Gulfstream. A grade one, historically, I think you could say maybe the most important stepping stone to the Kentucky Derby. You could argue it. Of course, Meagher, who won the Kentucky Derby, finished second in this race. When I first just say Florida Derby, what stands out to you about the actual race itself?
I think you hit the nail right on the head, as it is the premier prep on the East Coast. So for example, Todd Pletcher, one of the best trainers on the East Coast, his best horse is always going to run in the Florida Derby. You think of a horse like Audible, who was third to our horse Justify in the Kentucky Derby. Well, he was a really good horse. He just wasn't as good as Justify. If he wasn't born the same year as Justify, he would have won. You think of like a Maximum Security who won this race. He got DQ'd, but he crossed the wire first. We're talking about recent Kentucky Derby horses that have come out of this. So it is the premier prep on the East Coast. It's where most of those East Coast trainers, like Bill Mott, who's on the East Coast, this is where he wants to send his absolute best horses. So you're getting the best from the East when you look at the Florida Derby, and that's why it's been so productive over the years.
Well, we had our buddy Sharp Bets Co. in the chat at VSiN Live talk about a horse that's in this race with Mike Smith up. 7-2, Madaket Road. Let's start there and then start breaking down the actual field for the Florida Derby.
Yeah, if you want to start with Madaket Road, I think that the positives with Madaket Road is he really doesn't ever run poorly. Like, he's hitting the board when he's not winning. Really, I can only point to, other than his first race, only one other race where I thought that wasn't great. Like, I didn't think he ever really had a chance. So consistent horse, Baffert, on his side, that's good as well. Here's a stat on Baffert, though. He's 0 for 8 when sending horses here to Gulfstream Park for the Florida Derby. So he hasn't had a lot of success. This is not something he usually does. He did it this year because he has a ton of horses, and he's got to run them somewhere, and he doesn't want to run them on top of each other for this last prep. So he kind of sent him here. You're not getting Bob Baffert's best horse in this spot. So that's kind of the thing. Do you think Bob Baffert's B or C string horse can go win the Florida Derby? That's why I say no, but I do think there's a little bit of talent there with Madaket Road.
Number 10, Sovereignty. I had him 2 on my top 5. You had him on your top 5. Somich had him on his top 5. It's Bill Mott. He's a legend. First in the Fountain of Youth. Sovereignty, obviously 8-5, the favorite here. Do you have Sovereignty winning the Florida Derby?
I just couldn't not. So you talk about Bill Mott, and I know you've had him on your show several times, and you know as well as I know, you called him the gentleman of horse racing, and I think that's very accurate. There's not a more honest guy in racing than Bill Mott. I can say that with pure confidence. I love the guy. He was sitting there 1 minute or 2 minutes before the Fountain of Youth. They interviewed him on TV, and he said, look, I love Sovereignty. I think he's a nice horse. This is not his race today. He's coming off of a layoff. We haven't seen him in 4 or 5 months. He needs this race. I think he's going to run well, but not sure if this race is one he can win. He goes off and wins. So that shows me right there. Bill Mott was kind of telling you he's maybe 70, 80%, Patrick, and he still won that race. So what's he look like now? Because Bill Mott is an excellent horseman. And what I mean by that, he looks at the Derby, Kentucky Derby I'm talking about, and he works backwards from it. So this race, he'll be a little bit better than he was last race. And then the Derby, that's when you'll see his absolute best. But for Florida Derby, I think he's going to be ultra tough. I've got him winning this one.
Okay, if you're betting the Florida Derby, First Bet lets you wager on hundreds of horse races every single day from top tracks across the U.S. and around the world. Sign up at firstbet.com. That's the number 1, st.com. Use the promo code VSiN200. That's very important. You claim a 20% rebate for your first 60 days up to $200. You can turn that $200 into something special, people. Head over to firstbet.com today. The rest of the field, Aaron Halterman, the Florida Derby. Do you see a surprise in the mix?
I think the number 4 Disruptor is a big-time candidate to surprise. So he's kind of like Cornucopian. He has an extra race. So he's only raced twice. He's trained by Todd Pletcher. If anybody's kind of comparable to Bob Baffert, it would be Todd Pletcher. Here's the deal. He debuted on Pegasus World Cup Day. That's one of the richest races in our country for the older horses. Well, they had that Disruptor debuted in a maiden special weight there. And everybody said he was going to romp, and he was not good in that race. he came back in his next start, and everybody said, give him one more chance. Give him one more chance. We don't know what happened in that debut race. He's going to be better. He comes back, and he looked like the hyped horse that we thought he was going to be. He was excellent. He absolutely dominated that field. Now, again, just like Cornucopian, you're jumping from a maiden special weight to a grade 1 race. That's very, very tough to do. But he's got talent. It may not be Saturday, but I think down the road, you better keep an eye on Disruptor. I think he's a pretty good horse to keep an eye on.
Disruptor, the biggie of horse racing. Baby, give me one more chance. That's the Arkansas Derby preview, the Florida Derby preview. Aaron Halterman, of course. Now, remember, Bluegrass, Santa Anita, Wood Memorial, UAE Derby. That's all coming up, and this is exciting. VSiN at the Track has 2 shows next week. So we've got our regular Friday program, which streams live at VSiN Live on YouTube, 2:15 East, and then, of course, replay Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on VSiN. And then we're going to be live. Right here at VSiN Live for the Santa Anita Derby, which is my favorite race of the year. I'm biased because I'm right down the road from where it's run, Aaron.
Yeah, and it's exciting this year. It could be it's going to be a short field, but it could be just a star-studded field. So just like, my Arkansas Derby, your Santa Anita Derby, it's kind of the race to watch next weekend. I'm excited for it as well. It
absolutely is. Well, first off, as you can tell, I was super excited to do the program today. Sorry if I was too excited, but thank you for having me, Aaron. I'm sure we'll do it again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, I love the excitement. We got to sell the fight, man, because this is awesome. We got more people involved, and there's no better time than right now to get involved in it.
Like I said, this is your home for horse racing as we lead up to May 3rd in the Kentucky Derby. Post your comments at VSiN Live. Hit us up with a sub and a thumbs up over there. Matt Deutsch, great job. Isaiah Wrinkle, great job. Again, make sure you spread the word. Fridays, 2:15 East, and we're going to be live on Santa Anita Derby Day coming up next Saturday, replaying Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Okay. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, everybody at VSiN Live. If you are going to the Arkansas Derby, make sure you hit up Aaron at racing_dudes. I'm going to be doing the program. You're going to be out next Saturday. I'm going to be doing the program with Somich, so I can't be live in person at the Santa Anita Derby, but we're going to stream it live right here at VSiN Live, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm way jealous of you guys. I want to be on that live stream bad, but I'll be at the Bluegrass next weekend. So I don't know, maybe I can connect in for a segment or something, Patrick. But listen, as good as this weekend is, and it's amazing, next week might be better, right? So it's going to be awesome.
First world problems going to the wood. So you love to see it. Hey, safe travels over to the Arkansas Derby. And again, sincerely, everybody at VSiN Live in the chat, we really appreciate you. With this, the onus for Aaron and Jared and everybody at Racing Dudes coming together with VSiN is to spread the word about horse racing. So do your part, spread the word, let everybody know about the show, and we appreciate it. Have a good day.